All right. Okay, I hope your weekend is going great. Today, as you would have seen the flyer, we'll be talking about sugar, which is a silent killer. And I will be talking a bit in Hindi English mix, but mostly it'll be English for everyone's benefit. Okay. So my name is, one second, I'm just making few people as co-host. All right. So my name is Swati. I work in Bangalore as a wellness coach, and I have been working in the wellness industry for almost more than 11 plus 12 plus years now, and I'm really excited to talk about to talk a little bit about sugar and how it causes. See, we all know that sugar causes a lot of problem in our body, and sometimes we are getting aware of where the sugar is coming from, but the first thing that we do is uh, stop sugar in our tea and coffee, right? So to but there are different other places where sugar is coming in and creating a havoc in our health. So I will be drawing attention to how sugar is impacting different areas of our body. Okay. And because of that, makes it as a silent killer. So let me share my screen with you. Okay. I think my screen is visible. Yeah. Okay. So sugar is, we all love sugar. We have grown up on sugar, बट कभी कभार ऐसा होता है कि जो मिस्टेक्स हमने की हैं वो हम अपने बच्चों को नहीं करवाना चाहते हैं. सो आई हैव टू चिल्ड्रन. वन इज 10 years old and the other is turning 7. And the things that I had done in my childhood, the things that I have eaten in my childhood, I don't want to give that to my children, because I know the hazards of sugar and the things that can happen. Nonetheless, they like to eat few things, and when they are out for parties, then definitely they're eating, but I don't bring them at home, right? So let me start with this. So there are two forms of sugars that you would be aware of. One is the added sugar and one is the natural sugar. Now sugar, the added sugar is basically, as the name suggests, it is added to foods during processing, cooking, or before eating. And natural sugar is occurring in the food itself by nature, like fruits, dairy, and some of the vegetables. So it is naturally occurring in the sugar. Now the best thing about natural sugar is that the food has fiber in it, because when the food has fiber, the sugar spikes will be minimal, because due to the fiber, the sugar will slowly enter the bloodstream and the sugar spikes will be controlled. But when added sugar is there, like for example, we are eating any cakes, pastries, um, anything which is processed, including your chips and other things, it has it doesn't have fiber or the other vitamins, minerals in it, and as soon as we eat, it will get digested and spike the blood sugar, which will increase the insulin in our blood, and because of that, a lot of fat will be retained. So, if you see the simple sugars like sucrose, fructose, glucose, they are basically the simple sugars, which can which the food processing industry adds to the diet. I will be covering it going ahead also. Now, you can type it in the chat box whether sugar is acidic or alkaline. Anyways, I've written the answer as well, but sugar is primarily acidic in nature. So our blood has a certain pH. More, and if you would have heard your parents also saying that eat more of fruits and vegetables, more alkaline things, because uh, all the other concerns, metabolic related diseases, chronic diseases, they will not happen to you. And they are true in saying that, because when our blood is alkaline, all these problems don't come to us. The blood becomes acidic when we start eating a lot of processed or junk food, which is loaded with sugar. So this also makes sugar a silent killer, because it comes silently, and we will not know what hit us, right? So sugars, artificial sweeteners, they actually increase the acidity of our blood. Now, to check what is your pH, the blood pH, what you can do is you can take a strip, those pH strips that come, and take your urine and see if the blood is acidic or alkaline. That is one of the tests. The other test is if you can hold your breath for 20 seconds or more. That means, your body is not acidic. So if we could do that test, after the talk, just remind me if, we, so I'll put a timer and we can do it together. Okay. Now, sugar is actually, yeah. So sugar is actually the king of inflammation. So all the issues, they start with increase of blood sugar, right? Now, let me tell you a small story about the food industry. Now, the food industry, sometime back, maybe years back, uh, they the government told the food industry that the numbers of heart attacks are increasing, right? Because whatever the food industry was making, that was loaded with fat. Now, the food industry removed the fat, and whatever the nutrients were there, anyways, that went off with the fat. Um, but the food became tasteless. So uh, the food industry was like, okay, what to do next? How to sell the product so that it becomes more tasty, and whatever the profits come in. So what they did was they started adding sugar. So instead of fat, they started adding sugar. So with the sugar, uh, you know the um, uh, the heart attacks didn't reduce; they actually tripled, because sugar in turn caused a lot of inflammation, and all the chronic diseases increased. So don't get duped with the term sugarless or low fat, low carbs. It is especially in the packaged foods. It is not the truth. You will see that there will be some hidden sugars in it to make the food tasty, and that is how kids and adults, all of us, will get addicted to the sugar, to the junk food. So sugar is the king of inflammation, and let me show you how it impacts. The first place that impacts is the gut. Now, it is very interesting. It is something that uh, I want to tell everyone how sugar impacts your gut. Okay. Now, um, gut, as we all know, is basically, see, our food, the first place of digestion happens in our mouth. Now, there are certain sugars that don't get digested in your mouth, and they directly go into your gut. Your sugars are supposed to be broken down first thing in your mouth. The protein gets broken down in your stomach, because stomach is more acidic, because the HCl is produced, right? But in the mouth, the starch gets broken. There are certain sugars like fructose, sucrose. They don't get broken down in your mouth. They directly enter uh, your your gut. So what happens when we have a huge amount of sugar coming into the blood? So from the mouth, it goes into our stomach. from the stomach, it goes into the intestine, the small intestine. Now, small intestine, because it's so big, it has uh, certain bacteria in it, right? Which are good bacteria and bad bacteria. Although all of them are actually considered good bacteria, but because of certain imbalance, the dysbiosis happens. I want to touch upon this term called dysbiosis. What is it? So our intestine has typical four families of gut bacteria. The first one is Firmicutes, um, Bacteroidetes, um, Proteobacteria, and Actinobacteria. Now, these two families, which is called Bacteroidetes and Proteobacteria, they are more dominant in our gut. Okay, so Proteobacteria, they digest the simple carbohydrate, and Bacteroidetes um, digest the complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrate means your fruits and vegetables, which has more fiber in it, they will digest that. Now, if our diet is more in simple sugars, like a lot of sugars that are entering in our blood without the fiber, the proteobacteria come into picture, because more of those need to be produced to digest the sugar which is entering our blood into our gut, right? So more of those are produced, so more uh, so their population will increase, and the bacteroidetes population will reduce. So this imbalance in the two families is called dysbiosis. Imagine it to be two mafias in your gut. Malab, good mafias in your gut. I know it's mafias. I don't know if they are good or bad, but imagine the mafias in your blood, in your gut, and these two families. One is increasing in number, and one is reducing in number. And increasing in number, basically your sugar is coming in and increasing one mafia family and reducing the other. Okay, so um, now increase in sugar modifies the ratio between proteobacteria and bacteroidetes. Now, this happens when excess sugar is not absorbed in the small intestine and is consumed by the proteobacteria. Uh, so, this imbalance, like I said, is called dysbiosis, leading to all sorts of chronic health concerns. So, your gut is our second brain. If we don't keep it healthy, all the chronic diseases, they will start coming one by one. Okay. Now, the bacterio, bacteroidetes or bacteroids, what they do is they produce, because they digest the complex carbohydrate, which is the fiber in the fruits and vegetables, they produce something called short chain fatty acid by breaking down um, the non-digestible fiber in the vegetables, fruits and vegetables. Now, this short chain fatty acids, it supports the integrity of intestinal barrier. Now, intestinal barrier is basically it. See, when the nutrients get absorbed through the intestinal barrier, so the nutrients get absorbed and the pathogens and bacteria are left behind. It's like imagine we are going to a club, and outside bouncers are there, so the bouncers will keep the other members out, and only members who have the access to the club can come inside the club. So the short chain fatty acids also do that. They make sure that the integrity of the intestinal lining is intact. Okay, the and this intestinal barrier, it gets in the nutrients and leave out the pathogen and bacteria. Now, this intestinal layer, this intestinal barrier, it actually is protected by a mucus layer. It's like a small thin layer. Okay, and if there is too much of sugar in the blood, this uh, the gut starts to produce more of mucus degrading bacteria. Now, this intestinal layer has to be protected by mucus. But if mucus starts to get eroded, the bad stuff also passes through the this layer into the blood, and because of that a lot of allergies, a lot of food allergies start to happen to us, and this is a syndrome of leaky gut. So if we are not careful about the sugar consumptions and the amount of sugar that we are increasing in our diet, it will lead us to dysbiosis and leaky gut syndrome, and because of that a lot of allergies and immunity gets compromised. Okay, so um, this is about the gut health. Now sugar, all of us know if there's too much of sugar in the blood, that leads to weight gain, and it will eventually lead to type 2 diabetes. Now how does it do that? Now when we have a lot of sugar in the blood, sugar, like the sugar gives calories, correct? Now this calories, excess of calories get stored in our body, right? The first place to store those excess calorie is our muscle cell. Once the muscle cell gets full, that's the first storage. Then the body, then the blood starts pumping the excess of sugar into the adipose tissues. Adipose tissues is nothing but your fat cells. So a lot of fat cells make the adipose tissue. Once those are filled up, then the blood starts to pump the excess of sugar inside the organs. So which gets surrounded by something called visceral fat. Now, so once all these three are filled up, then what happens is there is sugar floating in the blood. Now that leads to type 2 diabetes. Now what we need to, like all of us know, we need to follow a healthy lifestyle, and we need to work on our 6 pillars of health so that the weight gain, is curbed and type 2 diabetes does not happen. Okay. Now, sugar and its impact on heart health. This is something all of you should understand properly. See, I could have put a picture of very nice heart here, but I didn't, because I wanted to put these three pipes. Okay. Now, as we know, sugar is acidic in nature. If sugar flows through our blood vessels, right? Blood vessels are like these pipes. We have arteries that takes the oxygenated blood, and we have veins that carry the deoxygenated blood. Now the arteries, the are like these pipes. So this round thing, the opening of the pipes is called lumen. Okay. So what happens is when there's too much of sugar floating in the blood, in the pipes, in our arteries or veins, or all these vessels, the inside, because the sugar is acidic, it starts to corrode, it starts to erode the inside lining of these blood vessels. Okay. Now you see the middle pipe, right? So now what happens is when the sugar starts to erode the inside lining of the vessel, uh, it your body detects that some damage is happening to the vessels. Now uh, the liver produces two cholesterols. One is HDL and one is LDL. HDL is high density lipoprotein, LDL is low density lipoprotein. In your reports, the LDL is always marked as the bad cholesterol, which is actually not true. If you see, LDL is produced by the LDL is produced by your liver. LDL is basically goes to these vessels, and it starts plugging in the holes caused by the erosion of by the sugar. Okay. Now, because sugar is eroding the inside of the pipe, now this LDL is going and putting it's band-aiding and it's plugging in the holes. So the industry is named it as bad cholesterol because more of it is getting produced, and the only thing about LDL is that it once it gets in touch, uh, um, once it gets oxidized, it starts to become sticky. So when it becomes sticky, it starts to collect more of platelets, and the more of LDL starts to deposit, more of platelets start to deposit. So it becomes bumpy. So if you see the inside of the middle pipe, it is very bumpy, correct? So, so your inside, the hole starts to reduce. Now, when this hole starts to reduce, because there's a plaque built up inside, which which is nothing but accumulation of platelets and LDL. So when it starts to become narrow, the blood pressure increases because the inside is very bumpy and it's not giving a free flow to the blood, and blood is also very thick and sticky, right? So with that, so your heart uh, is exerting more to pump that kind of blood, which is sticky blood. So the blood pressure increases. So, and this leads to chronic inflammation. So, when we have a lot of sugary foods in our diet, it leads to increased in cholesterol and increased in blood pressure and increased in the inflammation, because inside is getting damaged, and wherever there is damage, the white blood cells will come and start to repair. So, and inside it starts to become red and swollen. So, if we reduce the amount of added sugars in our diet, the free sugars, it will not cause the increase in LDL and the increase in blood pressure. Okay. Now, sugar and its impact on liver. Again, very important to note. Uh, the liver, like I said, the fructose, it doesn't get digested in your mouth. It starts to, it goes directly into your gut, and it goes into your bloodstream and goes to your liver. So now liver is now once the large quantities of fructose is reaching your liver, what will happen? Your liver is getting overwhelmed. It's getting very tired. Imagine in your office you are doing a lot of work, and others are relaxing and chilling. So you will get overburnt, right? So same thing happens to the liver, because liver detoxes everything that comes inside your body through breathing, eating, through your skin, because everything is pumped to liver to get detoxed. Now, when large amount of fructose comes into the liver, it increases the fat production, because liver uses excess of fructose to create the fat, and through a process called lipogenesis. Okay, and this now when this fat or this fructose comes in touch with the oxygen, because we are inhaling oxygen, right? So that oxidative, that process, this process of lipogenesis, it creates oxidation, and that uh, that produces something called um, it produces it reactive oxygen, which again damages liver, and it produces uh, a certain oxidative stress, which harms your liver's tissue, and that leads to liver cirrhosis or liver inflammation. Okay. And another thing is insulin resistance. Like I said, when there's too much of sugar floating inside our blood, which means that your cells are not receptive, they are resistant to insulin. That also leads to impact on liver, because everything is coming to liver to get converted into fat, and then liver converts it into fat and starts storing. Okay. Another thing that sugar impacts is bones. Now, when we take too much of sugary foods, there's a lot of so our, like I said, our blood pH in reduces. It becomes more acidic. To reduce that acidic nature of our blood, uh, the calcium from our bones are taken, and to reduce, to neutralize the acidity. And calcium deposits develop in different fatty tissue areas, especially around the breast. And then bones become weak, and they reduce their density reduces, bone density reduces, and that leads to weak, brittle, porous bones, and that leads to a certain concern called osteoporosis. Younger generation also are seen being osteoporotic. Usually in our parents or grandparents time, elderly ladies or older gentlemen, maybe around 70, 80 years old, they were prone to have this concern called osteoporosis or osteopenia. But nowadays, because of our lifestyle, even the younger, maybe 20, 30-year old people are also being getting osteoporosis and penia. One of the reasons is vitamin D deficiency, and of course the intake of sugar, because it's kind of leaching the calcium from the bones. And the third thing is we are not eating enough calcium from our diet, right? So um, so again, so it's a vicious cycle. The more we eat, the more bone leaching happens. The the more concerns will happen. Our bones will become weak and fragile very soon. Like even if we fall, the fractures will happen. It will take a lot of time to heal, right? So we can prevent this by eating less sugar. Another thing, sugar and its impact on kids' health, very important. See, kids are young, right? If those concerns can happen to us, imagine kids are more susceptible to having all these problems, um, because they are more like, see, I have seen families, I have seen parents who, when the child is hungry, they kind of give them toffees, chocolates, biscuits, chips, instead of, or some fast food, right? uh, because nowadays we are all busy, right? So we don't want to compromise on nutrition, we don't want to compromise on food, but we can't do much because sometimes kids are very picky eaters. So sometimes we are thinking that acha kuch to kha le, anything he or she can eat, it's okay, they are only eating something, right? But that's not true. If they are eating more of sugar, they are actually prone to a lot of these concerns at a younger age. So increase in sugar impacts, it suppresses the immune system, because like I said, the gut health gets impacted, and when the gut health gets impacted, the immunity reduces. They A lot of sugar leads to hyperactivity and learning disabilities, and it starts from a younger age. Another thing what we have observed is high amount of sugar in the diet of a child can lead to weakened eyesight, because the retina swells up with a lot of sugar there in the blood. Like poor gut health, of course, kids who are on sugar, who are on lollipops, biscuits, toffees, junk food, Maggie, it will make their gut health very, very poor. And it will it will reduce their dental health. So a lot of children, if you've seen, they have very, very transparent teeth or damaged teeth. That also, because see, if you are drinking cold drink, sodas, if the children are eating the sugary foods, even the milk, and they are not washing, they are not rinsing their mouth, the sugars stay inside the mouth. Now sugar is acidic in nature, it will start eroding the enamel, and that will reduce the strength of the tooth. So to take care of the strength of the teeth, we have to ensure that children are not eating sweets before the bedtime, at least 2 to 3 hours before the bedtime, and they are brushing their teeth at night and in the morning. Okay. Uh, of course, if there is a inflammation in the child's body, asthma and other problems will also come into picture. And a high amount of sugar can lead to early diabetes, early obesity concerns, and hormonal imbalance like PCOD and thyroid also. Okay. Sugar and its impact on skin health. If we are giving our children and ourselves a lot of sugar in our diet, our skin will become wrinkled, aged, patchy, will have acne and breakouts because of hormonal imbalance, and pigmentation, hyperpigmentation. And the skin hydration gets impacted because when there's a lot of sugar in the blood will start to, wants to flush it out of the system, because our body can self heal and self repair itself if we give it a chance. So the water will be used to, take it out of the system. So we need to keep ourselves hydrated if we are having more of sugary foods, because the skin hydration gets impacted. Our skin will become dry, scaly, patchy. So if somebody has that kind of, dryness on your skin and you don't know why it is happening, check out your food that you are eating. Okay. So this process is actually called glycation, because the collagen of your youthful skin basically bonds with the sugar and become damaged. So that process is called glycation. Now, coming to sugar craving cycle. So a lot of people say, I have a sweet tooth, I crave for sugar. So yes, by nature, God has made our body to have sugar in the form of fruits and not in the form of processed food. Okay. So what happens is when we give ourselves a high, chocolate, toffee, donuts, bread, biscuit, what uh, instantly the sugar is pumped into our blood. Instantly happy hormones are created in our brain. There's something called dopamine. Dopamine is released. It will make you feel very happy. So this process is actually, most of you, if you're emotional eating, so if you are sad, upset, something happened in office place or at home, you start to eat. So when we start to eat, we are not eating healthy that time. We are actually, going for ice cream or chocolates or sweets. So if we are if we are doing emotional eating, that release of happy hormones happen when we are eating sugar. Now, and within few time, within some time, that sugar comes crashing down, and then we feel fatigued and hunger, and again we feel sad. So this cycle continues. Now the bad thing about is there's a lot of sugar we are pumping in our blood, which is again not right, which will lead to your gut health imbalance and your increase of sugar in the blood and weight gain and liver health problems and whatever. So we need to ensure we are eating mindfully. Okay. Again, blood sugar roller coaster happens when we are hungry, and so if we are eating balanced diet. So this, if you see the brown strip, this is the optimal blood sugar zone. Basically, if you're eating healthy, well balanced diet, the blood sugar spikes will not happen too much. But if we are eating high sugar diet, blood spikes will go beyond, right? So we don't need we need to ensure that the blood sugar spikes don't happen by eating the balanced diet. And that is why we include a lot of fiber in the form of salads in our diet, because one thing is that sugar spikes can be controlled. Okay. So, how do we reduce inflammation? By limiting added sugars, reading the food labels, and choosing whole foods because they have fiber and other nutrients in it, which will ensure that your body is enriched and nourished. And of course, balanced diet. So, balanced diet, I hope all of us know what is the meaning of balanced diet. If you don't know, please get in touch with the person who's invited you, because balanced diet is something which is more sustainable. You would have seen a lot of diets in the market which kind of, you can do for 2 3 months because they're eliminating carbohydrate or one food group from the plate, but it is not sustainable. Can you remove carbohydrates completely from your diet for, like, till the time you're living? Of course not. So balanced diet is something which will ensure you're getting all the nutrition, but not too much of unnecessary junk. I mean, the sugars and all the other unnecessary items. Now, I've seen a lot of people say, I don't eat too much sugar. Possible, maybe true. They are eating, sattvic khana. But I want to tell you, uh, even if you're not adding that one spoon of sugar in your tea or coffee, that doesn't mean the sugar is not coming from anywhere else. Now, if you see your children, if they are having bread, jam, cereals, like especially cornflakes. Oh my god, cornflakes have the most hidden sugars. Okay. So let's see how many spoons of sugar is there in this one bowl of cereal. So 1 cup, 16 grams. Now I've given the conversion here. 1 gram of sugar is 4 calories. 4 grams of sugar is 1 teaspoon, right? So let's start from here. 4 grams of sugar is 1 teaspoon. How many grams of sugar is here? 16. So how many teaspoons of sugar is there in this bowl of cereal? You can type it on the chat. So in my calculation, it is 4 teaspoons. Okay. So 4 teaspoons of sugar. Now, even if you're not adding sugar to it, you're still getting sugar from the cereal itself. Now, we eat sauce like anything, with every bhaji or roti paratha. A lot of times we eat ketchup. Now ketchup has a lot of preservatives and sugar in it. So 2 tablespoons will give you 8 grams of sugar, which is roughly 2 spoons of sugar. And the sugar comes in different forms. Okay. So when we are buying something from outside, first of all, if we can make all this at home, it is absolutely fine because you will know the ingredients, you will know how much is going in. But if you're buying from outside, we have all the preservatives, we have all the added sugars in it, which is again not good if you are trying to manage any metabolic disorders or chronic inflammation in your body. Okay. Uh, you know, sometimes we give juices to our children and sometimes we have it ourselves. What happens with that juice? So that juice, if you see, uh, 3 to 4 apples will get converted into juice. But I don't know, packaged food, I don't think, I don't know how much of the pulp is there in it, but the whole fruit will have the fiber, vitamins, minerals, and the polyphenols, the prebiotic, everything is there. It's a whole food. But when it gets processed and packaged, it will not have the fiber in it. It will not have the required vitamins, minerals in it, and it has 20 grams of sugar. Because, like I said about the food industry needs to add needs to add the sugar to make the food addictive and so that we can buy it again and again. So how do we do that? By adding more sugar in it, sugar or fat in it. So 20 grams of sugar is how many spoons? It is 5 spoons of sugar. Do you think that fruit will have that 5 spoons of sugar? I don't think so. It is what the packaged food will have, right? So we need to ensure that the we are eating whole food. So how much sugar, added sugar, is the limit for children and for men and women? For children, less than 6 teaspoons of sugar in a day, and for men, it is 9 teaspoons, and for women, 6 teaspoons. So, on an average, if you want to remember, I would still recommend giving lesser sugar to children, not more than 3 teaspoons, and for men and women, 6 teaspoons. Okay. Now, how do we read the food label? Um, so, if you see here, we have total fat, calories, and total sugars. Now, total sugars plus added sugar is the amount of sugar that is in the product naturally and how much is added. Okay. So, added sugars will have certain number to it. So, when we are reading the label, we need to see this area, like how much is the total sugar and how much is the added sugar. Okay. Now, hidden sugars. Now, coming to hidden sugars. Now, when we read the labels, these are some of the hidden sugars that might be there in. So corn syrup, invert sugar, you have fructose syrup, corn syrup, uh, and many more. So there's an entire list. I can share that. Um, so, so what next? What can we do? We can't stop eating outside, right? Because of the social gatherings and what our social commitments, whatever is there, family gatherings, functions. We can't stop going there because if we are seeing something, we will be attracted to it, right? So what I tell my clients is eat salads and then go, so that whatever damage is happening after eating the sugar, it will be reduced. The sugar spikes will not be there too much. So what you can do is get back to the person who's invited you, maybe share your food plate picture and whatever you are eating in a day to help you understand if you're eating some added sugars or not. People on the program, you are already in touch with your wellness coach, so you already know what is the difference and what to avoid and what to include. But for people who are new to this concept of hidden sugars and sugars from your different food, please get in touch with the person who's invited you and share your food plate pictures so the person can help you with the food plate analysis, and you fill a wellness profile to help you understand if you have any concern with your gut health, because that is where most of the concerns start to happen. So that's all I have to share with everyone. If you have any questions, we can take up few questions. You can type in your questions and put here. Okay, looks like everybody got whatever I told. So if you do have any questions, please get back to the person who's invited you, and they will help you with the wellness profile as well as doing the food plate analysis for you. Also, for everybody's knowledge, we are running online workout sessions. So again, you can get in touch with the person who's invited you to know the timings and how to get enrolled.